Welcome to the Scoop World Order on a somber 9/11, a day of remembrance, a day that lives obviously in infamy for all of us that were around for that. We remember that, kind of remember where you were type deal. A terrible day in American history, but a day where a lot of heroes lost their lives. We are very big on first responders, and there aren't many days in the history of the nation that have had a bigger impact on first responders. You know, a lot of heroes lost their lives between firefighters, police officers, people trying to help people through the carnage. So we just wanted to recognize that real quick. Again, it was a terrible tragedy, and there were a lot of heroic people in that deal, and a lot of civilians that lost their lives. So again, we just wanted to give thanks for the people that run towards the chaos, which is our first responders, which is why we like to pay it forward on BuckeyeScoop.com. And again, we appreciate all of you guys that do. Again, we like to take care of our police officers, our firefighters, our paramedics, and I don't know if there's a day where they shine more brightly than that day, because that was a very chaotic day. But again, as always, we appreciate you guys. If you guys enjoy this content, as we always say, if you'd like to like it, share it, subscribe to it, and hit the alert bell, those are always huge for us. Again, if you follow us on Apple Podcasts, that is a huge deal. We're growing that Spotify very, very rapidly. So thank you for that. But we're going to get into what's going on at the bye week. The Woody Hayes is buzzing right now. Ryan Day is turning the screws to these kids. He's not letting them go home for very long. They get to go home Friday, Saturday. They're going to be back Sunday morning. So that really makes it kind of forces you to come back Saturday night. So it's a very short turn, unlike some other times where coaches will let you leave Thursday night, come back kind of mid-Sunday. But it's going to be a tight little window. So we're going to get into that. I'll bring in Nevada. Nevada, any thoughts on 9/11? Because it's hard on this day to not address that before we get into the regular show.
Yeah, I'm still, a surreal experience, having lived through that like we all did. Kind of a surreal experience was watching a reel. I'm not sure exactly if this is a show that's been on yet, or maybe this is something that's been on for a long time. I just never seen, sometimes you see things on Instagram reels that have been around for a long time. You'd never seen it before. But there was a thing on the boat lift from Lower Manhattan, where they kind of put out the call to the boats to ferry people out of Lower Manhattan, and the response and it was pretty amazing, because that was kind of like a little story that I had never, I've seen so many things on 9/11 and on all the different subplots and stories that were going on that day, but I'd never really seen that before. um, was really, it was kind of amazing. So I definitely want to hunt that down to find out where that is. And I don't know if you're familiar with that story or not, but the Coast Guard basically put out a word to any and all vessels in the area to come help get people out of Manhattan. And it was just like, it was like Normandy, with vessels just flying in, everything from pleasure craft to fishing boats to ferries to everything, just kind of converging all there on Lower Manhattan, and people helping other people at the time. And I love that spirit of people helping other people, and it's really it's sad that it takes something like that to bring everybody together as a country, and you know, hopefully we can get that feeling back without having to go through a tragedy like that, because that was, you know, that was truly, that was our Pearl Harbor, truly an awful day, but good to be remembering those that sacrificed so much. So that's
Yeah,
what I remember about 9/11.
yeah. I was a junior in high school. I'll never forget it because it was. I used to take we had study hall, and I'd always you could get assigned to like my high school coach let us if we wanted to loiter around the locker room for 40 minutes because study hall was usually 2 periods long. Like I'd get out of the locker room and hang out there for a minute, and I remember I was we had like this little island thing. I was like laying on it with I had like a little pillow for my locker, just napping for 30 minutes, and like I remember him saying someone's hitting the towers, like planes are flying into the towers, and again, like I was like, am I delirious? Like this doesn't I've never heard of that, not making sense. But then like when I went upstairs and all the TVs and all the classrooms are turned to the news and you're seeing what's going on, you're just like, whoa, this is crazy. So it was It was a terrible day. I mean, I remember it was the only day like football practice got canceled. Like all the schools, it was weird because like our school district canceled all after school activities, which is fine, but our opponent actually practiced that day. So, and it was Jackson High School, and we played. We were Perry, and we lost the game. Which again, it's whatever. It doesn't matter at this point. I don't care. But it's like I remember they would not let us practice, and we were kind of a team that needed to practice because we were young. But they forced everybody to go home. So it was a very tragic day, a sad day. Like it was a day that kind of galvanized the country and brought us together. So it was terrible, but it was a day that, I mean, it's one of those few days where you remember exactly where you were when it happened. And it was crazy. Well, we'll get into some of the show now. We got a lot of stuff going on in the Woody Hayes this week. A bye week is something that generally you hope it's around week 5 or 6, 7-ish maybe. We have it week 3, and then we have one after the Oregon game. Again, I'm kind of fine with it. I mean, nobody wants it this early, but you can get out on the road and recruit, and these coaches like to split up the staffs and do a little skeleton practice where they'll have some guys go out on the road and recruit, and then you'll have guys kind of take over the position groups, get through practice. We always did that at Ohio State. We'd send half the coaches out, and then the other half would be in running practice. We're doing some of that, and then usually on like Thursday, the coaches will head out, they'll recruit, they'll go see whoever the top guys are. They try to go to like the top area if they can see a couple guys. It's huge. So you'll see a lot of guys on sidelines on Friday at whatever the biggest game or the game they need to get to is. And then, the players are off Friday, Saturday, but they got to be back in Sunday morning. So, I mean, like Ryan is not giving them a leash. And the thing about when you're a player, the travel can be a little suspect because, you don't get some sort of a hall pass if your flight is canceled or delayed, or again, a lot of these kids, the South Florida kids want to go to Miami. There's kids that want to get out of town, but you're always running that risk. Like, what if my stuff gets canceled? What if I get stuck? Which again, I know that it doesn't always happen that way, but you're running that risk. So, but what are your thoughts? What have you heard so far, Nevada? You put up a huge nugget on BuckeyeScoop.com about what's going on in the Woody. What have you been hearing?
Well, I mean, this is a time of challenge for Ryan Day, and Ryan Day's using this to kind of up the physicality. He's kind of come in with an attitude, kind of a comment that all jobs are open. That it was like hey, the first 2 weeks were like an audition for the play, and now everybody gets the chance to stand up and say what they want to do, and all jobs are on the table. So I think Ryan's looking at this as kind of a relaunch of the season, a little mini season. You had the first 2 NFL exhibition games as they were, and now you kind of have your off week where people are auditioning for jobs, and now they're going to get back at it again for a little sprint, up for the next 4 or 5 games up to Oregon. So I think Ryan's playing this right. So far all the buttons they've been pushing have been working. Is that because they've been playing terrible teams? Well, I don't know. You ask a lot of other teams that have struggled against not great teams or not highly regarded. I mean, Notre Dame just lost at home to Northern Illinois. So, like, you can say all you want about what tier of MAC team you're playing or whatever it is, but Notre Dame. Yeah, I'm not saying they had their season ruined, but that was bad. I mean, that put Marcus Freeman squarely on the hot seat, and Oregon struggled with Idaho and other teams. It's been a very interesting year for teams in college football, and Ohio State's been able to their bad game, as it were, was against Akron, where they only won by 48 or whatever it was, and now they're getting back into the swing of things with the bye week and then head to Marshall. But I think Ryan's these coaches have to be master psychologists, and that's where you got to coach under the master of the masters and Urban Meyer, who, for my money, even with I guess Saban's up there, but man, I'm not sure if in one game I'd want anybody in the world coaching other than Urban Meyer. And every time I hear him talk, I feel like my IQ goes up about 5 points because his urban, whatever the name of that show that he does with DiNardo, that urban authority or urban whatever. He did a 5 minute thing on the breakdown of the double option versus the triple option, and the stress that it kind of puts defenses under, and how Will Howard's running that for Ohio State. And it's so simple, and it's so perfectly explained. And you get to see why Urban Meyer is such a great coach. But at his heart, he's a psychologist, and that's what Ryan Day's got to be right now. Ryan Day has to be a psychologist with these guys. He's got to fight all the outside influences that are going after this team. Manage the internal conflicts, manage the rigors of NIL and the dynamics that brings into the locker room, and get this team stay hungry and peek through an early, I won't say inopportune buy, but a buy that you don't typically see at this time of the year, and get the guys rolling. But I think he's done a great job with it so far, and pushing all the right buttons. And we'll see next week when they're really into game prep for Marshall and when they actually roll out there. But liking what we're seeing this week, and I think Ryan Day is doing it exactly the right way.
I think, to me, this is the part of the year where you have to beat the kids to death, basically, because they're going to hear nothing. After the first two games, and Michigan doesn't look great, and Oregon doesn't look great, I think that the fan base and the people around the team, everybody else other than Woody Hayes, is saying, hey, this season is basically it's like a fast pass straight to the national title at this point, because again, Oregon should have lost to Boise State. If Boise State doesn't give up a punt return and a kick return, they win. And Michigan got throttled by Texas. So again, those were the two giant hurdles. Penn State was struggling versus Bowling Green. So now, you look at how dominant Ohio State has looked, and then you see that the three biggest opponents aren't looking too hot. That's the thing you have to beat down if you're Ryan Day. And again, Jim Tressel was great at it. Urban was great at it. But there's a lot of lessons learned that, this team will likely cruise through the regular season to get to the playoffs, get to the Big Ten championship. But you got to keep these guys locked in, dialed in, and hungry to get better, because again, bye weeks are a gift and a curse, because when you're these players and that you're 3 days away from flying home, especially the kids that are from South Florida or wherever, their whole mind is on getting to John Glenn International Airport and getting through the terminal and getting on that plane and getting home to see, their family, their homegirl, whatever, go see the crew, go to South Florida for a little bit. So you got to get these guys focused. And again, Jim Tressel has had a huge impact on Ryan because, Truss is retired now, and Truss likes to pay forward like Woody Hayes did. And something that he's talked to me about, because again, you guys don't realize a lot of the insight that I get on how to run a program. What do you do in these? A lot of it comes from Truss, because I talk to him every week. So we always talk a little bit of football and what do you think of the week and whatever. And he said, with a camp like this, you gotta, with a team like this, a camp like this, and 2 games early in the season that aren't very competitive, you gotta beat these guys down. You gotta keep it. You gotta go good versus good in practice. Because when you do scout teamwork, which Jim Knowles talk a lot about scout teamwork. Scout teamwork is when you put Jack Sawyer and JT versus the Armstrong twins and the freshmen. And they're gonna destroy those guys. They're gonna it's not gonna be very competitive. But you gotta make these guys sharp and have it be good versus good, and have it be real scrimmaging. And for the young guys, I'd even go live and have them get I'd have the young running backs get, maybe not Sam Williams, Dixon, and Peoples, but I'd have some of those guys get tackled, and I'd have real physical inside drills for the young guys, because it's a good time to develop, because you don't have the young guys don't have to play in a game on Saturday, and they usually don't have to play in a game anyway on Saturday, but they need to have the screw segment. You don't need to go beat the tar out of Jack Sawyer and JT, because they kind of know what it is. But like I said, I think that this was a good mentality of Ryan to say, hey guys, there are some spots that we are truly evaluating. Now, they're not all of them. It's not like you're going to see, James Peoples beat out Trey and Quinchon, but there are some spots on offense where they are really evaluating who's the starter. And it's serious. I mean, tight end's one for sure. And then there's some other ones that were mentioned to me where they're trying to figure out, what's the real staff rotation going to look like going forward. It's kind of like during this next little circuit, which is, from Marshall to Michigan State, Iowa, Oregon, and then reassess again at the next bye week. So you have like this four week stretch. And I've talked a lot about when I played in 04. Like, I mean, I didn't start my first game till week 6. I mean, so we were so the first 5 games I didn't start. I played, I rotated in, but then I finally grabbed the starting job week 6, and then I never lost it. So again, that's just part of it being like in a competitive culture. And I didn't need anyone to tell me to be competitive, because I wasn't trying to stand there and be a backup. So I wanted to take the spot. I knew I was better than the guy in front of me, and I took it. So like that's the mentality that a lot of these guys need to have, because you don't need to sit there and say, oh, woe is me, I got beat out, because just go beat them out in practice. Then if you get into the game, make sure you take advantage of your reps. And I'm telling you, a lot of these guys, I'm going to break down a play of the second team offensive line. Like, those guys looked really good. Like, I mean, again, for as much as people beat on the depth of the O-line, like when those guys went out there, they performed. And it wasn't like the offense stalled and we're 3 and out punting. Like, we were marching down the field and scoring just as easily. Now, again, I know it's against their second team too. I totally get that. And I know that the game's out of reach and whatever, but even still, like, I think it's supremely difficult to stand there for, if the game's a 7:30 start, you warm up at 7, and then you stand there for 2 hours, you go through halftime, you still don't play, and then you got to go out there cold in the third quarter, late in the third quarter, and go perform. Like, that's hard to do. I know people don't realize that, because this isn't Madden, this isn't NCAA college football, 25. This is real life. So these kids came off the bench, played well, executed. And I thought they did a good job. Nevada, who are some guys that have stood out? Because we've talked a lot about Ty Hamilton's. I mean, he's going to have a long NFL career. He's been outstanding. Who are some other guys that were mentioned that have stood out thus far? And I think Quinn Chun's going to get more work going forward when they self-scout some of this stuff. But here's some other guys that have stood out to you.
Well, I mean, we've talked a lot about Arvell Reese and how well Arvell Reese has played. And, that's a guy that, when you're recovering your bingo card at the beginning of the year, it was really, Sonny and CJ and Cody, of course. And then we talk a lot about Gabe Powers. But, Arvell was a guy that came on our radar. We talked about him, but he's even been better than I thought he would be. Some guys, play better when the lights shine brightest, and some guys play a lot worse. And you never know until you get into game action. But Arvell Reese is a ball player. I mean, he's a guy that can absolutely get it done. And, I think he's been nothing short of terrific, through these first couple of games. Caden McDonald, another guy that, big time player, guy that's just, blowing guys up, making splash plays. And I think he only got 15, 16 snaps last time. And I think at least 5 or 6 of them were really, really good impactful plays by Caden. So, he's another guy that I just think has been unbelievable, thus far. Lathan Ransom coming back from injury, he's a household name anyway, but I think he's been terrific. Offensively, I'm telling you, Will Kazmarek is really growing on me. I mean, I know he was a guy, early reports that I got on Will, it's a guy we got out of the portal. And not all your portal guys hit, but you want to hit on a high percentage of them. But the reports I've gotten on Will Kazmarek was kind of just a guy, and he's more than just a guy. I mean, he's blocking well, he's doing his things, and he may end up being one of those unheralded, Mitch Rossi type of guys that come in there with a really defined role and kind of expand it from there. But Will does a lot of the little things that you want to see happen. And really, really happy with him. Great kid too. Easy to root for. Brandon Ennis, the 3-headed monster of JJ and Carnell and Emeka. Sometimes you overlook a guy like Brandon. If Brandon Ennis, the former number 1 wide receiver in the country, can be overlooked, but he has really carved out a role for himself with his punt returning, and then going on. Now it's translating to wide receiver, and how they're playing him, how they're utilizing him. So I think again, all great stories, all great experience. And the last but not least, I'm going to go with Will Howard. I mean, not surprising, but he is. Urban was talking about what the attributes you want to look for when you're running. If you run the option, or running that quarterback, and first of all, he said nothing stresses the defense more than option football. Nothing. And no one wants to play against an option team. And he stressed that, and he said, "What you want? You want a big guy, a tough guy, and a great decision maker." And I mean, Will Howard is that's who he is. And I think for people, he's not Justin Fields, he's not CJ Stroud. So yeah, he might miss some throws or whatever it is, but you have to embrace the whole package of what he is and what he means to this offense. And what he means is we can put maximum stress on the opposition defense with our elite running backs, with our elite wide receivers, and with a big, tough, good decision making, fast, because he's legit fast, quarterback. So I'm so excited about seeing him run the Chip Kelly offense, and he's just going to get better and better and better with each week and with this going through. But those are kind of my surprise guys, at least through the first couple of games. But so many good performances. I'm sure you could pick 10 of your own, but that's who I got.
Yeah, I think there's some guys. Obviously, I think that something that's interesting is Josh Simmons looked really good. He's kind of a different cat, a little quiet. He's kind of keeps himself, but he looked great, I thought. I mean, he really played well. Seth McLaughlin's been an absolute godsend to this offensive line, and he's done well. And I've broken him down substantially. I felt terrible for Carson Hinsman, losing his job, and he's just had terrible luck because he had the hand, foot, mouth thing, missed a bunch of practice in the middle of camp, and Tigre stepped in, and Tigre did really well. I mean, Tigre's playing well, and he's had some screw ups, but he's still young. I mean, he's only had 2 starts, and he's got to keep getting better. But he's got a lot of talent. You can see how he can move guys, and I think he's taking things more seriously. And a guy like Seth could be like a godsend for a guy like Tigre. A guy like Tigre who's kind of a minimalist when it comes to working, as opposed to Seth, who is a guy that has to do everything possible to maximize his talent. That could rub off on a guy like Tigre and amplify his efforts, because Tigre's got NFL talent. There's no question. I mean, you watch the kid move and you look how big he is. Again, sometimes it's just when you're that big and that wide and that massive, like that's genetics. And then when you put in the work and you've got Mick and you've got the dietitian and they scan, they do the body scan to get you a little less fat and get you leaned up and get you moving, guys, then magically you get something to work with. So again, that's why. As stupid as most of the analysts are when it comes to talking about recruiting offensive line, like you got to take kids like Tigre that are the 3-star, 4-star Ohio specials or projects or whatever. And the thing I tell people is I'm like, look, every offensive lineman is a project. I don't care who you are, you're a project. I mean, there's been maybe 20 in the last 10 years where I'm just like, yeah, that guy. Sure, like Laramie Tunsil was not a project. Laramie Tunsil was a guy that was. I was like, he's going to start the first day he gets somewhere. He's going to go be first overall pick in the draft. He ended up being like the 8th overall pick. He had the gas mask thing, and he's made $200 million in the NFL. Like that guy was locked in Hall of Famer from the time he was a 17-year-old. But Trent Williams wasn't. Trent Williams is the guy that the Florida Gators, when Urban Meyer was there and Steve Adazio, and they're great, they didn't offer him because they literally said, quote, he is not good enough. Like the Florida Gators had this great manual of basically every single kid that they'd looked at, and they broke it down by position, and it would say where they went, why they didn't offer them. And next to Trent Williams, who's going to be, he'd be maybe on the All-Century team. Literally, it said not good enough. And he's the best tackle of this generation. He's 36. He just signed a new $80 million extension, which is crazy at that age. But he's that dude, So again, I love the fact, like Paris Johnson is going to be, making $50 million a year when he does his next extension, because he was excellent this past week. He was, he's an excellent pass blocker, did fantastic versus Buffalo. But even he didn't start as a freshman. In the second year, he had to choke it up and play guard. And then the third year, we had him at left tackle, which is his natural spot. But, we had an issue where we had four tackles that all started in the National Football League this past Sunday. Like, let me say that again to you guys. We had 4 tackles. Because again, when I have to listen to complete morons that are on the Ohio State beat talk about, oh, well, we're running 4 tackles and we can't be running 4 tackles. I'm like, well, no, we're actually running 4 guys that all started in the NFL by year 2 or year 3. Some of them started, like Paris started year 1. Dewan started year 1. Nick Petit Frere started year 1. Thayer is starting this year. So again, like my mind explodes. And honestly, I feel bad for people that listen to some of these podcasts and some of these people that literally they have no clue about what they're talking about. And I'm just like, guys, like you get dumber by listening to some of these people and reading some of their material because it's just that bad. But literally, we had 4 guys on that 2021 line that everyone's, it's the 4 tackle line. And Luke Whippler started last year. He started a game for the Browns at the end of the season. He's out for the season because I think he broke his ankle or broke his leg or something. He's on IR right now. But so he had 5 NFL guys. That's what the real stat is. And so Matt Jones, who's a practice squatter for the Dolphins right now, he I mean, you can't not start the 5 NFL guys. You just got to figure out. And Sud was good. He figured out a way to put a 6'7" sophomore in at guard, and Paris did a good job. He was second team All Big Ten that year. And then the next year, he was a All-American and top 6 pick in the draft. And but that's kind of where it's at. So, like I said, with the O-line, it's always projects. And so when people want to panic and we're taking this Austin Seyerveld kid or this Tigre Tishkabola kid, but we didn't get Kenyatta Goodwin and we didn't get Jordan Seaton and some of these other shows. Like, I'll tell you what, if you guys want to have a comedy hour, go watch Jordan Seaton pass protect versus Nebraska this past weekend. Because I was watching that thing, I was like, oh yeah, the Ohio State fans would eat him for lunch. Ohio State fans would turn into Hannibal Lecter on that kid, and they literally would eat him alive. Because if he played like that in the shoe, oh my God, it'd be the end of days. But I love the direction of this offensive line. I think Tim Drevno has been a huge addition. I think that the way the stars aligned, where Ryan Day could hire Chip Kelly, and Chip Kelly could literally hire his last 2 offensive line coaches. Now, he didn't hire Justin Frye was already here, but he hired Tim Drevno, who was Tim Drevno was on the bread line after Chip Kelly left UCLA because he was not retained by Deshaun Foster, who hired Juan Castillo, who's another good line coach. So you have Chip's 2 O-line coaches, past 2 O-line coaches at UCLA on the staff. So they already know the offense, they know their verbiage, they know what Chip likes. And Tim Drevno has been very impactful to the O-line thus far. Justin Frye has been able to recruit more. They work great in tandem. So I love the direction of the offensive line. Now, I might be the only one, and they might, stink it up versus Marshall, and you guys can come run back and laugh at me or whatever and say you know nothing about the O-line, but I feel pretty good about it. Nevada, any other thoughts? I'm going to break some film down.
Well, yeah, just look, I've watched a million Ohio State games just like you have, and the one thing that seems to be a universal is when the second team offensive line comes in, all goodness stops, and it looks like a clown show, and guys running around out there. And it didn't look like a clown show versus freshmen. They were moving guys around. Now, that might just be because the Chip Kelly offense is so freaking good. It doesn't matter who you put in there. Or it could be that we're coaching or whatever it is, or a combination of the two. But, look, invariably we'll have a game this year or 2 or whatever where we don't just always move the ball down the field. And so I don't want people to panic when that happens. But so far, so good. And I'm hearing nothing but good reports about the backup guys, and people can see it with their own eyes. Go watch that offensive line when it's the second unit in there, and tell me that it's a clown show. No, they were getting it done, and that's certainly a very encouraging sign for the future.
Well, I think another thing that we have not talked about enough is the iPads. These guys all have iPads on the sideline now, and they can instantly fix everything and correct everything on the sideline. And again, that's something where, if I would have had something like that, I can't imagine how much easier life would have been if you're not just relying on a grease board, and you're not just relying on hearsay. And again, there's guys that most of the guys are honest on game days. Sometimes they're not, but you got to make sure, hey, is this what'd you have, what'd you get? And if you do a 12-play drive and they say, hey, what'd you have on the 4th play? Like, sometimes it can be a little foggy, if it's a hot day and you're out there and might not quite remember it as good as you need to. But with the iPads, they get everything instantly. They can watch tape on the field. You can kind of, I honestly think it's great because, in the film sessions, I used to always hate the Sunday film sessions because we sit in there for 2.5 hours and get screamed at for, if we had a bad game or whatever. So I think you can just get the screaming out of the way, in real time on Saturday. And then I can't imagine like they'd have to scream at you twice when they correct it on the iPad and say you did the wrong thing or went the wrong way or whatever. But I think having the symmetry on offense and then kind of the cohesion on defense that they have, it really makes doing the iPad stuff much easier because a lot of these guys speak the same language. Like when you have Jim Knowles and you have Matt Gary and you've got obviously James is on year 2. Larry Johnson's been there for 10 years now. I think that it makes it a lot easier to get things done. Tim Drevno, Justin Fry working together on the O-line, fixing things. Chip Kelly up top, Ryan Day down there, being able to talk to the quarterbacks with Brian Hartline. I think that is something where when you have a tight staff that's aligned, it could be a humongous advantage as opposed to kind of a bunch of guys that are just kind of all new. Like I could imagine like if you're like the staff at like UCLA and it's like it's literally like 12. It's a whole new 10-person coaching staff. I don't think that they'd be as quick. I'm sure they all try to help each other, but it's not going to be as coordinated, in my opinion, as having these guys that have all kind of worked together and have that chemistry kind of already built in due to the hire. So I'm going to break down. I love this play. This is a great play. And this highlights a lot of the guys that came off the bench to get in and get rolling. But you've got, excuse me, I got to switch my deal. You got Patrick Gerd, who is the son of Andy Gerd, who is a great player. He's one of the most underrated players, I think, in the entire. And he really does a lot of good stuff. But here he is. He's running. He's pulling as a fullback. So he's gonna. You got your kick out guy, which is Luke Montgomery. He's gonna kick the end. This is just a counter play. So I'll run it real quick and then I'll break it down. Blocked literally. You couldn't block it any better than that. James Peoples obviously going to the end zone. You see Jelani. Jelani's getting better, which is good. So here you just have your, you got Carson has got his back block. You've got basically a double team here with Zen, and they leave Austin Seyerveld in for the whole game up to the second level. You've got a cutoff block back here for George Fitzpatrick, who George is playing great. I mean, in the system, very light feet. Luke has a kick out here on the end, and then you've got Patrick Gerd. I don't want to call him Andy Gerd. That's his dad. It's kind of the guy who gets if the alley player shows up, whoever the other guy is. And then here you got a little inside handoff. So again, it looks like a read option. They're actually bringing pressure off this edge. So this is literally like a Connor Stallions call because they're bringing it off the edge and we're going the other way. So he can't get here. And again, this is the beauty of the read option. Again, this is something that you do to combat the read option is that he's reading this edge. And when they bring the pressure, instead of it being a tackle for a loss, if it was a traditional handoff, this guy here has to honor the quarterback. So he's looking right at him, and all of a sudden, he has to stop for a second. Where if he's not honoring the quarterback, like, again, if I was a defensive coordinator last year and they ran a play like this, I tell whoever the edge guy is, I say just don't honor the quarterback because they'd never ever pull it. But we pulled it earlier in the game, so now they actually have to honor it. So he slows down, which is great, and he pauses for a second and stutters because this is his guy, and all of a sudden that's enough for James Peoples to go to the crib. So again, this is just excellent all the way around. And again, Jelani, I think Jelani's the guy that got us. If you said Kirk, what would you do? I just put Jelani at tight end and just let him run with it and see how he could do. But Nevada, what are your thoughts on that? Because again, I think that it's always good to see these guys come in late in the game, 49-0, and a lot of people say, well, yeah, you could put the tuba player in the game and it would, he could go out there and do it then. And there is some of that's true, but at the same token, like, these guys all want to play. These guys all want to start. These guys all want to get film out. And even so, like, we're not going to keep our roster 100% the same for the rest of eternity. So there are going to be guys that, they're going out there to play because they want to have good film in case they do end up transferring, which again, I don't want any of them to, but this is just modern college football at this point. But I love when the second team comes out and they still have a good flow and they complete drives and they score. But what are your thoughts on that?
Well, again, so much goodness. Jelani, that's a really good block by Jelani. And if Jelani gets his blocking together, along with those abundant physical gifts that he has in receiving the ball, yeah, he's going to be a handful. But um, I love the little things like watching the how many times we've seen the defensive end or the edge player come flat down the line because they just don't respect our quarterback. And as you said, we'd run it earlier in the game. Will Howard kept it, went into the end zone. So you've got to respect him. The guy comes out there, he slows down. He can't just crash, because basically that guy is unblocked. Nobody's accounting for him coming flat down the line and making that play. And he has to stop and look at the quarterback, and bang, people just through the hole, basically walks into the end zone untouched. But that's why I always talk about how scheme is everything, and scheme, defeats any types of deficiencies that you have in personnel. But that was really blocked up well. That was executed perfectly. Perfect scheme, perfect play call. Another example of how we're doing things on easy mode and not making everything the hardest way possible. Where we present. I mean, think about that play without a quarterback constraint, without a viable quarterback constraint. Like you said, that could be. We've seen that play tackle behind the line 150 times the last 3 years, and the offensive line gets beaten up, and everybody, oh, they're terrible, and it's like no, because there's a free runner, coming off the edge, coming flat down the line because he doesn't believe that our quarterback's going to keep the ball, and I've always felt that the offensive line would look better. The running game would improve like magic when you got the scheme going. And I think that play was kind of exhibit A of what I was talking about the last 3 seasons.
I totally agree. I love a lot of the stuff that we're doing. I'm gonna break down a 4th-and-1 play. This was I like this. Again, I don't think that this is wrong to do. Got Julian Sane in the game, 4th-and-1. Got the 13 personnel. 13 means 1 running back and 3 tight ends. So you've got tight end, tight end, tight end. Got your X up top. Got your tailback. Again, this is a great scheme. This is, you're just going to run a full zone to the right, and run a little bootleg off of it. And you're going to have, there's a banana peel, I think, right here that this guy slips on. Bennett gets loose back here. You got your kind of the levels to your passing game where you've got, your flat guy. You've got here again. this guy hits the banana peel and falls down, which is great. So that makes it a lot easier for Bennett to get open when his guy falls down. But again, you see the kind of the cross flow of, everybody turn and run this way, full zone, running back coming this way. You got the edge guy here who can release into the flat. Because if you want to actually run this play and run it, you can just have him come and take out the backside edge. But he just releases. So you got your 2 levels. You got here, you got Ennis up here. And then you even have Jelani pivoting here if they don't cover him as a little dump off. But Bennett, obviously when he goes and his guy falls down, like he's wide open. And Bennett, again, I love this, and I've never seen this before where BI does his little airplane thing to keep guys away from him, which again, you don't want to turn back and kill a guy, but those guys aren't, they're not exactly excited that these 2 guys get to look like trash on tape because the other guy fell down. So is that the guy that fell down? Yeah, this is actually the guy that fell down. So good effort by him. He only gave up 10 yards, but he almost he tries to get back and catch him, but it's I like the scheme of it. Obviously, it's great to score the touchdown. A little fluky when the corner falls down. You can't anticipate that, but our turf does suck and it does need to get replaced. But what are your thoughts on that? Because again, that's a nice easy throw for Julian. Like I said, obviously it's a lot easier when the corner falls down. What are your thoughts about it?
Well, again, you highlight. I mean, obviously Bennett got loose because of the guy falling down, but we had other options, and ... and the quarterback could run for it, and that's been something that's the missing element. That's the X factor. That's the key that the defenses have to account for. That creates the indecision. That's the thing that's going to make this offense go, and you got to have quarterbacks that can move. And look, I want to shout out Devin Brown. And Devin Brown, we talked about Julian Sane, we talked about Will Howard a lot. Devin's probably never looked better than he did against Western Michigan. Again, noted it's Western Michigan. I understand that, but he looked decisive with the ball, showed that big arm that we've been hearing about for a long time that hasn't been readily apparent to the fan base. But I thought he did a really nice job in there, and kudos to him for coming in, executing nicely, so that they could get beyond him to Julian Saint. But I thought Devin Brown did a nice job when he was in there.
Yeah, I agree, and I'm actually going to highlight a Devin Brown play. This is one of my favorite plays of the day because it's not clean, but it's something that I always talk about with my quarterbacks. Go get green grass. Go get that free money. I say that all the time. You guys are like, Kirk, what are you talking about? You're crazy, whatever. And I know I am crazy. It's fine. But this is a play, little bit of a breakdown, and this was something I was real critical about with CJ Stroud. Obviously, CJ is great, but CJ, and the thing that really, it doesn't anger me because it's not worth getting angry over, but like CJ runs in the NFL now. He didn't run with us, but and again, I think that some of these guys, they get so protective of everything. They're so scared of getting hurt that it's like they kind of turn into snatches, which it is what it is. It worked out for him, but this is a play. It breaks down. You've got, rush coming, covered, like nowhere really to go with it. So Devin just tucks it. And again, there's all this green grass that you can go get. So, it's 1st and 10 and, they don't have coverage for him. So he goes and gets 8 yards. And again, that seems like a simple, stupid play. And, it's a breakdown, but it's 2nd and 2 now just because he went and did it. And again, I don't want him to go lower the shoulder. I don't want him to get hurt. I want him to protect himself. But I'm just saying, like, when you're an offensive coordinator or a defensive coordinator or an offense or a defense, and it goes from 1st and 10 to 2nd and 2, that is demoralizing to a defense. And again, people don't realize that. But when you do that consistently, it's a lot harder to check a guy when, if you run man coverage, all of a sudden he's going to boogie and go get 8 yards. So again, that seems stupid. It seems trivial. But like that's something that Will Howard can do. That's something that Kyle McCord could not do. It's something that CJ Stroud would not do. It's something Troy Smith did. Something that Terrell did, and Braxton and JT and whatever. But I think like plays like that are so easy because again, on that play, everything's covered. All the players are covered. So you can either throw it away and make it 2nd and 10, or you can go get 8 yards and make it 2nd and 2. And I love that play. And I know it's trivial. It's 49-0. It's everyone's heading to the parking lots and getting ready to go watch Buckeye Scoop at home on YouTube. But talk a little bit about that, Nevada, because that's been missing from our offense through the whole CJ Stroud era, and it missed with Kyle because Kyle was lead-footed. He couldn't run like that, and again, that wasn't like some whirlwind Lamar Jackson, Michael Vick run. That was just a guy that's got decent athleticism, boogie in and get some yardage. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, no. Look, those are drive extenders. Those are the ones that put you in a good spot to kind of extend drives and continue to march down the field. And it's also those are killers when teams are playing man to man against you. They play man to man against you. They're running with their back to the line, and all of a sudden you break contain and go up the field, and make a big play. Yeah, without trying to beat on the guy that was here before, last he would have thrown the ball out of bounds or turtled and taken a sack for a 7-yard loss, and everybody be screaming about the offensive line stinking. But yeah, no, those things they are so effective tactically and emotionally for an offense. Yeah, it's nice to see it returned.
Well, and in the sequence, I'm going to throw this on here real quick. So, they get it, and then they come right to the line. I'll just roll it for a second. They go right to the line, and I bet my house it's going to be a simple run, like it's 2nd and 2, right to the line. These guys can't do a ton of exotic stuff. They end up bringing a single pressure here, and they hand it off. So it goes from 1st and 10 to 1st and 10 in 2 plays because. He gets up, he checks it, he sees he's got this is a gorgeous box. This is a 6-man box. You've got this is you're literally outnumbering them because it's a 6-man box versus 6 blockers plus a quarterback that could read somebody. So it's like 6 on 7 in favor of the offense here. And you just do a quick little handoff. They run a little plug, And again, the 2-0 line, and again, I know that it's the MAC team, I get it, whatever, but excellent, 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 excellent. And, you see nice cut here, not really touched for the first 5 yards, converts it, first down. So again, I love when you can string a play that gets 8 yards and then go right to the line and run a simple handoff like that, and get 5 more yards. And again, I get the strength of schedule, strength of the opponent, and all that. But that's a good way to chain together kind of demoralizing little gains that turn into really good drives. I mean, you go from 8 to 5, and then you bring it back and you figure out what you want to do next. But I think if you get 8, man, go right to the line, run it again. Like I said, I thought Luke Montgomery was really good. George was good. There's a tight shot here that I'll break down real quick. These guys are coming. Like, again, I'm more excited about next year's line than anybody, because I really think you got 5 guys that can play right now. I mean, I think Luke can play. I think George Fitzpatrick can play. I think Carson obviously proved he could play last year. Austin Zierville can play, and Zen's fine. So I mean, these guys. One thing these guys got to do is they got to learn how to refit their hands, because they never do that. They're, again, you can't play versus a good player and have his hand in your chest. Like that should feel like. I always joke, like, if you have like a fireplace. I don't have a fireplace, but like I grew up, my uncle had a fireplace, and there'd be like these little tools that used to move the wood around and stuff, like a real wood burning fireplace. Like that, like hot poker. If you left that thing in the fire, that is what his hand should feel like against your chest. It should feel like he's branding you, and you need to get that thing off as fast as possible. And again, that was something that I became really good at, because we used to drill the crap out of that with Jim Bowman, was getting the inside hand. I would never let that guy's hand stay in my chest. And as soon as I felt that, I'd remove it. And you have to have the confidence in your power and your skill that you can remove it and refit it like wicked fast. It's almost like a martial art. But I would never let a guy's hand stay in my chest like that, because then he controls you. If you get his hand, like what I would have done, again, I'm not trying to be Mr. Oldhead, but I would always aim right at his arm, and I would catch his arm and grab it, and then I'd refit my hands inside, and I'd steer him like it was a steering wheel. And then he'd just be flapping around like a dead fish. And that's why I became an All-American, is because my hands were so good. It wasn't because I was 6'8" and I ran 330 pounds. It's because my hands were good and guys couldn't get their hands off. So, but yeah, this is good. Again, this is good by Carson. Carson gives him a little shove here on the hip, which makes the hole even bigger. James Peoples, good. Zen, good. Like I said, this is really good by our second line. Again, I've heard nothing but beat the line to death. No, I know, Kirk, it's second string versus, Western Michigan, and I'm just sunshine pumping or whatever. But, those guys are on scholarship. And again, the MAC, it's kind of a double-edged sword, but there's a lot of guys that bounce back to the MAC. I know that the MAC loses guys going up, but there's some talented guys that come back down. So there's a lot of really good players. Like Max Crosby played in the MAC. Like there's a lot of, I have to go through all the good players who've gone through the MAC. So, you better show up versus those guys. And again, I don't have to go to the Notre Dame thing, 'cause I'm not trying to beat on Marcus, but if you don't show up versus these guys, man, they can make you look terrible. So, I really love that. We got a couple super chats, Nevada, we can dig into. Any thoughts on that?
No, look, I love those little things like Carson putting the hand on the hip and just giving that guy a little parting gift and shoving him through the hole and then kind of going on. You talk about working up to the next level, but that's, little thing like that veteran move. I like our backup. So our second line. I think our line next year, heaven forbid you add anybody in the portal. But even if they don't, I like the dudes that we have, and I like the way they're developing. But yeah, let's get to them super. Now, when somebody put their hand on your chest, did you ever bite them? Did you ever like reach out there and just like bite their arm to get their arm off their chest or anything like that?
With a face mask? How am I going to bite through my face mask? I can tell you. That's all I can tell you. You're only a baseball player.
Kirk.
You could do that with your baseball helmet
Kirk,
on when you're like this.
A mega All-American. We'd have 2 trees together if you'd have been able to bite the guy when they got his hand on your thing or something like that. But instead of just our one lonely tree.
I just turned to a werewolf in the middle of the play. That'd be actually pretty fire. All right, D Sonny, I appreciate you, my man. I think yes, I turned into Teen Wolf. It's nice to hear that you're happy with the wideout blocking this year. How much is receiver blocking technique compared to straight effort? D Sunny, I'm telling you, man, you ask the best questions. And that is a fantastic question. I think it's like 80% effort, 20% technique. Because the problem with receivers, again, and Marvin Harrison Jr. is obviously a fantastic player. He's probably the second best receiver, maybe the third best receiver to play at Ohio State behind Chris Carter. I love Garrett Wilson. So Garrett Wilson, I think, is severely underrated at Ohio State because of how athletic and explosive he is and how much separation he creates. But Marvin's probably in that top three, in my opinion. And again, you can come at me, but I like Garrett. And Chris Carter's got a gold jacket, so that's where it starts for me. But I think that there was a little bit of a culture in Zone 6 where, like, if you blocked it, you're like kind of being too big of a tryhard, or guys were just really scared of getting hurt. You see guys make business decisions when they're third year juniors, man. There are guys that turn it down big time. I mean, if you watch Travis Hunter, there's a viral clip about where the running back is, he's 10 yards away from him, and Travis Hunter like gets close and then just stops, lets him run right into the and that's the thing. Like with Travis Hunter is playing cornerback, I'm like, dude, you got to tackle. But again, who's his daddy? It's Deion Sanders, and Deion never tackled anybody. So that's kind of the problem. Is like these guys make these business decisions, and again, God bless them. Marvin was fourth pick in the draft, which is fantastic, but it comes at a price. It comes at, you're being selfish. And I've seen guys in year 3 and they get down to the edge and they're not trying to get their nails dirty. They're not trying to get hurt blocking somebody, and they're too cool for school. But the good teams receivers block. I mean that could be the difference between winning and losing a national title. And this year our guys are blocking at a national championship level. Last year they didn't. Last 2 years they didn't. So again, not cracking on Marvin Harrison. People don't go say, oh, Kirk hates Marvin. It's like there's a pronounced difference, and it's called Chip Kelly. Chip Kelly, cracked the whip on these guys. You guys, this is not going to happen anymore. You're not going to be able to just go take a vacation every time we run the ball. You got to go take out a safety, go block a corner. And again, how many explosive runs have we had in the last 2 games where I say, hey, look at J.J. Smith, look at Carnell Tate, look at our edge guys, look at Ennis, look at Emeka. It's like, I don't know if I did that last year. I know we had some long runs. Like I know Trey had the long one versus Notre Dame, but I didn't feel like we had as many explosive runs. Now maybe it could be the scheme, the running backs. We didn't have Quinshawn last year. Trey was dinged last year, but I don't know, Nevada. It feels like Chip Kelly came in and put his foot up a certain coach's behind and said, "You're not going to have your guys block like this anymore." Because like I said, I love Chip Kelly. He does not give an F about any of your past credentials, or you're not going to be a sacred cow with him. He's going to get after you, even if you're a coach. And again, that's why magically our guys are all giving effort on the perimeter. Nevada, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think the Chip Kelly effect, is real. It's something that we knew would happen. I think it would take form in a lot of variety of different ways. But you just think about the way that the room was configured last year, and then you take out a guy or two, and then you add a Chip Kelly in the room. Like, who really is going to take on like if Chip Kelly's on something? Who's going to stand up on the other side and go, no, our block, our wide receivers do a good job, or what? I mean, there really isn't a countervailing force, and Chip's going to get his way on that, and he's so credentialed, he's so smart, he knows exactly what he wants and what he needs out of the guys, and he holds them accountable. And I think accountability was something maybe we were lacking a little bit the last couple of years, but it's back, and it's back in a big way. And I think it's manifesting itself in the ways that you're saying, and in a lot of other little ways. But wide receiver blocking is definitely on the uptick, and that's a good sign.
Yeah, because like I said, Chip's at the point in his career where he's made a fortune. He's done everything. He's done everything except for win a national title or a Super Bowl. He's been a head coach in the NFL, a head coach in college. He's seen it all. He's been around Hall of Fame players at the next level, and so he's seen it all, and he knows how to make his offense look good, and how make those numbers more sparkly, and how not to. And again, the easiest thing you can do to get huge runs is make sure that the receivers block. I know that we always, anytime a run doesn't work, especially if it's a perimeter run or everybody looks at the stats and we didn't get those big explosives, like they love to blame the offensive line, but I'm like, guys, like there's 10 guys on the field that aren't carrying the ball. The quarterback's not going to block anybody. So the rest of those guys better go figure out a way to get as many of those guys as they can. And again, it's not some, magical potion that was drank that made these guys start going. It's because Chip Kelly got after them and said, hey, you guys are going to block this year. It ain't going to be like last year's tape. So again, I love it. I think it's great. And kudos to Chip Kelly for changing the culture that I thought was terrible when it came to blocking last year. Luke Nicely, thanks for the 5. Love Justin Fry's recruiting, mixing big athletes with smallers, get players who come from nasty running teams, just teach pass blocking. Nevada OH. Yeah, I think that's kind of what you have to do. Like you have to kind of figure out, who can, for one, you're at the mercy of what is being produced in Ohio. And I always say that to people. I'm like, look, as much as it's great to wish that you could get every 5-star kid. And again, there's only 3 or 4 5-star kids across the country that play O-line. And you got to go beat Georgia and Bama and whatever SEC school on them. So if you get one of them, great. If you get none of them, great. But, I like the mix of kids we have. Like, none of those kids that were on that tape that I just showed you that I thought were doing a really good job with the 2s were 5-stars. I mean, none of the guys that I've broken down this season on the offensive line, which I thought has done really well, especially week 2, are 5-stars. But they're well coached, they're well trained, they're in shape, they look good. And so it gives us a chance. You're not going to get 5-stars across the board, not in Ohio. But we've got a really good pipeline of kids coming up. Your junior and senior class has got some good players in it. So, give me tough, competitive kids and let's go maul. Again, we won national championships with, Adrian Clark, Bryce Bishop, Alex Stepanovich, Shane Olivier, and Rob Sims. None of them were 5-stars in 2002. And they beat the Miami Hurricanes, who had Jerome McDougal, who was a first-round pick. William Joseph was a first-round pick. Vince Wilfork was a first-round pick. So, somehow, some way, we blocked them with a very old-school, archaic scheme, and we were able to get it done. And then in 2014, again, we've named this line 6 million times, where Taylor Decker was not a 5-star player. Neither was Elfline, neither was Billy Price, neither was Jacoby Bourne, neither was Darrell Baldwin. Most of those guys were 3-stars, actually. And they won a national title. Why? Because we had a great scheme. Those guys played really hard. They were really tough. And we had Ezekiel. So, again, give me, an above-average line and superstar running backs, and magically we're going to run the ball a lot. Because, again, you're not always going to have just this incredible line. You go watch the NFL. Go watch the 49ers. Like, how many Pro Bowlers do they have on that line? They have one, Trent Williams. They pay him a lot of money. The rest of those guys are interchangeable because Kyle Shanahan's running scheme is so good. They've lost Christian McCaffrey, who's on the cover of Madden. He didn't even play. Jordan Mason ran for 140 yards. Why? Because the system's good. The scheme's good. Christian McCaffrey's a Hall of Famer, but he didn't play and nobody noticed. So, again, scheme trumps talent. Most of it. Now, you can't have a bunch of turds out there with a great scheme and go against, Georgia and hope that it works. But when you're Ohio State and you have a great scheme now with Chip Kelly and great talent, then that's when it gets terrifying. Nevada, Luke Nicely, again, thanks for the 5, my friend. It says, love Fry's recruiting, mixing big athletes with maulers, get players who come from nasty running team, just teach pass blocking. And teaching pass blocking, if we were playing Madden and I had to make a creative player and I had 100 points to give out, I would put all 100 in pass blocking and I'd put 0 in run blocking. Because run blocking is just it's not that it's easy, but pass blocking is what gets you paid. Pass blocking is what, like Paul Alexander is one of the greatest line coaches in NFL history. I was with him at the Bengals. He said, do you know how many offensive linemen in the National Football League can't run block? And this is the whole room, and people are like, I don't know, like some maybe. He's like, there's a lot that can't run block. You know how many linemen in the league can't pass block? He said none, because if you can't pass block, you can't play in the league, can't play in the big leagues. Now again, are there guys that still get beat and give up sacks and whatever? Of course, but they've shown on film that at some point they can pass protect. Now, again, if you're going against Myles Garrett or Nick Bosa, you're still going to have problems. Like Tyron Smith had all kinds of problems with Nick Bosa last night. But, pass protection is everything in modern football. So give me big athletes that can move their feet, stay in front of guys with long arms, and then you've got something to work with. Nevada, your thoughts?
Well, look, I've never, ever thought that we had a talent issue in our offensive line room. I've always, when I look at our offensive line room and I see, the guys that we have and how credentialed they are and how highly regarded they are, to me, it's never been that we weren't talented enough. So when I would hear people talking about we don't have the guys that can beat Georgia or we don't have the guys that can beat Alabama, I'm like, that's a bunch of malarkey. I never believed that. It's just you coach the guys up and run a scheme that puts them in good spots. And now we're doing that, and now guys look magically better. And it's like a wand came and was waved over the guys, and they magically transformed. But no, I think that we've been too predictable, and we put our offensive line in bad spots. But it's never been a talent issue. So I'm perfectly happy with the guy that Justin Fry is. That he's bringing in. I like, first of all, I like Ohio kids. I like Midwest kids. You can have the Jordan Seatons and the Sean Charles Hendersons and all the rest of those guys and the Caden Proctors and maybe they'll go on to become great pros, whatever. But you know something, just give me kids, Midwest kids, and in a great scheme, and we'll win our games and we'll be just fine.
Yeah, I mean, even like Jackson Carman is a 24-year-old kid that was the 5-star godsend of the world. He's out of the NFL. Like I can't believe that. I mean, you don't talk about a fall from grace. Like he's not even signed by anybody right now. And and with the new practice squad rules where you can sign a veteran, that's kind of shocking. So again, we took Nick Petit-Frere, who's for those guys keeping score at home. Nick Petit-Frere starts for the Titans now. And so he was actually better than Jackson Carman. So again, we're the narrative killers. That's why you tune in to watch us. So we actually upgraded in that class by taking Nick Petit-Frere, who again is going to get a big second deal and looked good again on Sunday. And I'm so proud of those guys because when you have Thayer, Nick, Paris, and DeWan all starting, that's incredible. Like I mean, I don't know when's the last time we had 4 offensive tackles starting in the NFL from Ohio State. That doesn't even count Taylor. I mean, that's 4 guys from one line. From that 21 line. And that's not counting Taylor Decker and if I miss anybody. So Sean Rollins, thank you for being a great wrench and also a great Ultra member. Thank you for the 10, my friend. I hope you're having a great night. I don't see a question on here, but I appreciate you, brother. Nevada, I think we could wrap this thing up. Any final thoughts?
No, just interesting week. I love what Ryan's doing. I love the way he's challenging the guys. I love the way that he's having the open auditions. And I think it's let's get the guys all through the week and back on campus at the end of this little mini break and get on to Marshall. I personally hate bye weeks. So and it's a bye week of bad games too. So. Let's just survive this weekend and get on to big time football next week.
Yeah, I agree. The bye week is always a time where the coaches don't sleep great because the players are out, and again, when you're the big guy at your hometown or on campus, there's always things that could go wrong. So it's going to be sleepless night. But I like Ryan's bringing those guys back early to get after them a little bit on Sunday, so that'll be good. That being said, thank you guys for another great episode. I hope you guys had a good time tonight. Again. Thank you to our first responders, our patriots, police officers, firefighters, military folks. Thank you for paying it forward through the Super Chats. The Super Chats go into our Pay It Forward. We signed up a lot of new members to BuckeyeScoop.com. If you guys are not members of BuckeyeScoop.com, now's the time. Our board is absolutely cooking on fire. It's the best companion there is for football. Anything that you guys like to talk about, we've got a huge swath of people that are experts, I think, in seemingly everything. It's a great community. It's incredible. It's like this chat, but on steroids, because we have a much, much bigger population on there. And it's really fun. So I'd love to see you guys run BuckeyeScoop.com, especially for the football season. It's simply incredible at this point. So as always, I just appreciate you guys so much. If you enjoy this content, please leave us a like, click subscribe. Also click that little alert bell. Again, it's going to be another great week of coverage on BuckeyeScoop.com. I'd love for you to join it. So if you want to do something excellent, follow us on Apple Podcasts, follow us on Spotify. Again, we appreciate you guys so much. With that being said, thank you so much, Buckeye Nation. Thank you, Scoop family. We will talk to you guys tomorrow at 7 p.m. Go Bucks.